I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit? So that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day everyone. Dan Smolin from What's Your Work Fit. Happy 2026. We are launching a mini season today, and I'm really excited about our guest, and we'll get to him momentarily. And the reason we're doing a mini season this spring is because we're moving studios. That's another way of saying I bought a house, and I'm moving to new digs this spring. So to accommodate a very big move, we're going to abbreviate our season and then pick it up in the spring with a full season. So we're excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I believe it's going to make What's Your Work Fit an even more enjoyable viewing experience for each and every one of you. So let's get started. If you haven't done so already, if you're new to What's Your Work Fit, do yourself a favor and subscribe to these platforms. We're on LinkedIn at What's Your Work Fit. We're also on the What's Your Work Fit YouTube channel. Next up, we have a Substack, and this is growing very, very nicely. On our What's Your Work Fit Substack, you can find all of our media assets, including our live shows and video clips and our audio podcasts, but also all of our content. And it is a fun experience. It's, I think, something you will enjoy immensely. Do subscribe at dansmolin.substack.com. And last, if you enjoy the experience of What's Your Work Fit, my ask is that you tell 5 of your friends to subscribe to it across all of our channels. That way, we build a community of like-minded people seeking to do work that's an amazing part of the day, doing work and other things. So that's my ask. I want to get right to our guest today. It is my great pleasure to introduce you all to Kareem Rogers. Good afternoon, Kareem. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. How about yourself?
I could not be better, although spring allergies, and I sound a little hoarse today, so I apologize for that. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Let me tell you briefly about Kareem. He is an HR business partner and corporate recruiter who has built high-performing teams across several industries, most notably healthcare right now. We'll get into some of that. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do, Kareem.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Kareem Rogers. I go by my brand, The Fit Recruiter. So my full-time role involves me being a recruiter at a hospital where I recruit nurses and technicians. But on the side, I run a career coaching business called The Fit Recruiter LLC. And our goal is to help job seekers, who we call strength seekers, get bigger salaries and stronger careers. So from my experience, as someone who has not attained a job during COVID and being laid off, I've used some of the lessons and skills I've learned from that and being a recruiter to help my clients optimize their chance at landing a role that will help them achieve more money and a stronger career.
So we're going to lean into the Fit Recruiter work because it is like ripped from the headlines, and we'll get to that. But the other work that you do I've got a selfish motivation to talk to you about because, as you know, my daughter has
Yes.
just graduated nursing school and she starts her job in nursing in a very busy emergency department in the Hampton Roads part of
Wow.
Virginia. So it's going to be intense. Yeah, she's an adrenaline junkie. We'll get to that. Um,
Okay.
but first things first, I want to get to our lead question, which is how do I reinvent myself after a layoff? Now, we've come to you on this, Kareem, because you've written about this. And as everybody knows right now, we are shedding talent in the workplace. This is the latest jobs report from the Department of Labor. Um, and it was pretty significant. We've actually shed a lot of jobs in the past 14 months. So
Right.
without any further ado, we've got a lot of people out there who have been disengaged from the workplace either because of company performance or maybe uh, AI, although I don't really know how much that feeds into it. That's a big
Mhm.
thing for debate
Right.
started. How can people reinvent themselves after a layoff?
Well, first, I think the main important thing before anything is to focus on your mental health. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been laid off before.
Mm,
I believe that we talk so much about the strategies to land to get back into the job market, which is important because I know for some people they got to get back to working. But I think that we focus less on the mental health of it. Uh, for people who ever follow my LinkedIn, or if you're interested, I did a LinkedIn Live with one of my friends named Donzel, who's a therapist, and we talked about the mental health aspects of being laid off because it really can take an effect on you. You know, I
mm,
know people try to be positive, they try to look at it in a good light, but let's be honest, there's a feeling of sadness, disappointment. You may question if you were a good fit or did you work hard. So, the first thing I will always say before reinvention is healing. Take the time to recover from that sadness, that disappointment. And then once you take some time, get back into the market and try to get another job. Now, when it comes to the reinvention,
mhm,
there are a lot of things that you want to consider. First of all, how do you want to position yourself? How do you want to brand yourself? In this current market, a lot of people are getting laid off.
mhm,
While that is unfortunate, that also means that there are a lot of people looking for roles similar to you. So, the main thing that is important while you're trying to attain another job is you need to figure out how you can differentiate yourself from other people.
mhm,
Because if a recruiter like me is looking at applications and I'm trying to decide who I want to move forward to the hiring manager, I'm going to look at each one and says, what about them stands out based on the job description, minimum qualifications, what the hiring manager told me to see who will be best suited for this role. So think about how you want to brand yourself, how you want to position yourself. For one, what are you known for?
mhm,
What skills are you very good at that will make you valuable, right? What connections do you have? Because I tell people this all the time. Yes, what you can do is important. Who you know is very important.
mhm,
I can tell you from experience, I know people who've attained interviews because they had the right connections. I can give you a story. Before I worked at UI Health, when I was looking for a job, because I'm active in organizations, one in Chicago, SHRM, I remember one time I applied for this opening, right? I'm not going to say the company name. I didn't get it originally. However,
mhm.
because someone I knew in my organization had a lot of connections, I asked him if he knew somebody there. And the person who he knew actually ran the whole HR department.
Right.
So, because of that connection and because I reached out to that person, I was interviewed for the role. Now, at the end of the day, I didn't get it. But what that shows is because of that connection and because of reaching out to that person personally, that helped me get the opportunity to get interviewed compared to other people. So that's another thing. That's something.
I was going to say, what's really interesting about that when I was recruiting, and I did it for 20 years,
Right.
who knows this person was probably the first question that comes up
Exactly.
behind the scenes, right?
Yes. And also, what is the position? Because I think that's important too. What is the
Mhm.
position of the person that works at your organization? Because if a director, VP, or CEO is referring someone to you for a role, 9 times out of 10, the likelihood of you interviewing them is going to be high. Now,
Mhm.
don't get it twisted. Even people who are maybe doing an entry level and things like that, they'll be considered as well. But that's also why I emphasize so much the importance of networking and connections, right? Because
Right.
once you build connections and you meet people, when you are applying for roles, especially at specific companies, you know who to go to, because even if they can't refer you, they may know someone who can, or they may know someone who will be able to give you a better chance at being interviewed, whether that's the recruiter, hiring manager, person at the department you're trying to work at.
Mhm.
Always try to network, even if you're not laid off too. Because I tell people the worst thing you can do is do things when the situation is now, happening right
Right.
now. If you're laid off, of course, do that. But I'll also say for people who are not laid off, always network, always build connections, always be proactive, because for one, with the way this market is, you never know. Of course, there are some industries like healthcare. I heard healthcare is doing good in the job market. You never know if your organization is going to lay people off or change some structures. So I am a big advocate that you want to be as proactive as possible, so that in the case that something happens, you already know who to specifically go to basically rebound. So that's one thing. And I would say, and I know it's a couple, I
Mhm.
would say last, or I'll say one of the main important things is that you want to upgrade yourself, right?
Mhm.
What do I mean by that? Look at the current job market. Right now, what's the big thing that everybody's talking about? Yeah,
AI.
exactly. AI. AI is the biggest thing going. If you go on websites like Coursera, they got certifications and classes related to AI. You see some entrepreneurs who started business on how to maximize AI. Look at what skills are highly valuable in the field that you are working in or trying to work in, because there are people who may want to pivot during this time. What skills are very valuable in this role? If you've attained it already, how can you improve your skill in that role? Or if you don't, what can you do to gain that skill? Are you going to get certifications? Are you going to do some projects, volunteering opportunities, things like that? Your main goal, and we call this upskilling, your goal
Mhm.
is to build the skills necessary to be seen as a valuable candidate, so that when you are applying for roles, you are telling the hiring manager or the recruiter, hey, this is what I've done while finding for a job. I've been improving my skills in this, and this is why I believe this would make me highly valuable for those roles. So build those skills, build those connections. I always say, if you have examples of that, because I will never forget this to this day from my last job. I remember I was recruiting for a bank manager.
Mhm.
The hiring manager, one time we had a meeting, and he was so excited about this one person who he interviewed, because he said, Kareem, this person came to the interview, told me what they did, and they had examples. They showed me examples, projects, like they showed me evidence that this is what they did. I love someone like that. I love someone who can show me examples of what they, of course, you gotta be careful depending on certain things, of
Right.
course. Right. Make sure I emphasize that. But either way, if there's a way that you can show projects or things to show what you've accomplished, that can help you stand out as well.
I love that. And I probably love it most because that's exactly what I did in the early part of my career.
Okay.
In the early part of my career, before I was in recruitment, I was in the advertising agency space, most specifically in direct marketing. I,
Okay.
I produced direct mail programs. I did database marketing. What set me apart and what made my interviews really effective? This is going back a long time, Kareem, but I had a
Get it?
portfolio like creative people in an ad agency would have. And within that portfolio were examples of my work that I could talk to. It
Mm,
wasn't just show and tell, it was show and explain. This is what I created. This is the problem it solved. This is on the back end what it did. And the advancement was we had this big P&L bump, which created all this revenue opportunity. That, when I was 23, 24 years old, allowed me to go out on my own without a recruiter, do a direct marketing campaign to 40 direct marketing agencies in the East Coast and in the Midwest.
Okay.
And that got me a 10% response for interviews. So I got interviews from 4 shops by phone, 3 in person, one of which was in the Loop in Chicago. I didn't take that one. Okay. But the one that landed was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And it happened because I was able to show my future boss what he was getting. It wasn't just me talking, it was me demonstrating. So you are absolutely correct that you've got to bring examples that you can talk to. And the interviewer can challenge you on and then say, yeah, it's a good point. Let me explain why I did this.
Right. And this is the thing. And this is why I tell people all the time, even when you're reinventing, right? This is always going to be important. And I kind of use this quote from, you know who Stephen A. Smith is, right?
Oh, sure.
Right. I know he's a polarizing figure, but he says something that still stands out.
That's to put it simply.
I know, right? but he sometimes he says some things when it comes to careers. Right. He says some things where I understand where he's coming from. He says, when I wake up, I think of 2 things. How do I make my bosses some money? How do I get a piece of that? What he's basically saying is, how do I bring value to the company or to my bosses that I work for? Because those who bring value are those who's going to have leverage, are those who's going to be able to attain a job. And when you are showing examples of your project, you are showing the value that you bring. And that's where a lot of people have to remember when it comes to trying to land a job. You're trying to sell yourself to show why you are valuable to a company compared to another applicant. Not because you're a hard worker, because I'm sorry, that's like one of my pet peeves when I hear people say that.
Oh my God, I hate that.
I can't stand that answer. I know. Like literally, I just like click off when I hear that. But what makes you different from this other person that will make me want to talk to you and say, this might be somebody who I want to consider?
And that's why you have to show it and not talk about it. Because when you talk about it, it's BS. But when you can show it and the hiring manager can say, I can visualize Kareem in this job. Let me probe it further. That's advancement.
Agreed. And that's the thing too with reinvention. You want to really show it. You want to really showcase your value, showcase what makes you different. So all those things I explained earlier are very important when it comes to the reinvention process, especially during this time where a lot of people are getting laid off.
I imagine placing people in nursing assignments, you're dealing with a lot of reinvention. You know, my daughter is still young, and she was a couple credit hours short of graduating with her bachelor's, but she was like, this path that I picked for myself, I don't even see myself being happy in it. And she did a lot of exploration and said, you know what, I want to be a nurse. Okay. So she went to nursing school. So she had to reinvent herself based on a very difficult journey. One of my old friends who was also in the marketing agency side business and was very good in sales had enough of that. She got into nursing and she's been crushing it for 20 years. So let's talk about reinvention, but let's also talk about the things that can illuminate reinvention. And one of them for me, and I think you will agree with this, is experience on a team. Yes. Often in college or high school or whatever, on a sports team. Let me give you an example. So my wife and I work with a financial advisor, a big company. And our main contact said, I am bringing this new person on board. Her name is thus and such. I don't want to use her name because privacy.
All right.
And I said, cool. So I went on LinkedIn and I went, whoa. Why did I go, whoa? Because in college, she was a member of Crew. She was on crew, and I was like to my wife, I said, Marsh, I think this woman is going to kill it because she has to have an appreciation for everybody else in that boat and the coxswain and be able to work synergistically. I know people hate that term, but it's real in this case.
Right.
Because you're creating a rhythm, but you also have a job to do, and you know how you impact the ecosystem, if you will. Cut to current day. She's crushing it. I only call her now if I need to get something done with this company because she will say to me, okay, I understand what you want. This is how I'm going to do it. Does this meet with your approval? You can proceed, blah, 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 blah. And it gets done. And I don't have to worry about it. So Kareem, I know you're pretty athletic. Tell me why that is a good idea to leverage that past team and sports experience.
Well, for one, and this is actually something even important, you meet people on that team, right?
Right.
And it kind of goes back to that networking component. So it's funny. I actually just told one organization I'm a part of. Shout out to the Society of Elite Resume Writers and Career Coaches. I gotta make sure I shout out my people. But I actually made a post in our group chat where I said, you'll be surprised, but a lot of clientele or a lot of business connections I've gained have came from the gym or came from organizations I'm a part of. So for people who don't know, I do things also like martial arts. I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm okay. I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do some training in MMA, still trying to get better at that. I've competed in high rocks. I don't know if you know what that is. High rocks.
Oh, high rock.
Yeah, so it's basically like CrossFit, but it's more endurance in my opinion. You have to run, I think, 6 miles, do some obstacles. Just look it up, Dan. I'll send it to you. Man, some people might know when I say that.
Man, I give you props for that. I'm too old for that crap.
Thank you. And I'm actually this upcoming April, I'm going to do my first half marathon.
Good for you.
But the thing is, go ahead.
That's in Chicago?
It's actually in Champaign, so it's going to be at my
oh wow.
Yeah, I went to U of I in Urbana, Champaign. But the thing is, with all of those organizations, or not organizations, all of those events, I either join a group, a team, just something where there are more like-minded people in the activity. And the thing is that when you are working in a group, you're learning a lot of skills when it comes to trying to reinvent, right? Because for one, you may have to be the motivator. You may have to be the one who people see as the standard. You may have to learn how to effectively communicate with other people. There are a lot of skills when it comes to being a part of a team or being a part of an organization itself. And this is why I really advocate for people to join organizations, join groups, even if it's things like intramurals, right? Because sometimes people just want to do something to just let loose. And there's actually organizations for professionals who want to do activities. I forgot the name of it, but you will be surprised by how you can gain a lot of skills from doing those things, and also what connections you can build from those opportunities as well. The thing is, though, is that you have to make an effort to actually try to connect with people, right? Because don't get me wrong, there are some people who are very introverted. Like, believe it or not, Dan, I consider myself introverted at times, but when I'm in these spaces and I'm there numerous times, you just eventually get to meet people and talk to people. And the more you get to meet people and talk to them, the more comfortable you become. You start to gain skills, because sometimes too, your team will challenge you, because if they notice some things about you or see the potential you possess, they may say, hey, why don't you run class this time? Or, hey, why don't you announce what's going on? So the thing is that when it comes to the concept of teams or the importance of teams, you'll be surprised by a lot of the skills that you can gain from those avenues overall.
I love that. And even if it's a Pilates class, I mean, that's what my wife does 3 times a week, and she's made friends there, and she's gotten ideas for things she wants to do. I mean, it's a little different for us, but I think, and if we do have young, quote unquote, Gen Z members of this community, and they're the most rattled and the most anxious about the situation that they may be in, where either they haven't connected or they've been disengaged from the workplace and are like, what do I do? What do I do?
Right.
You lean in on people that know you, perhaps playing half court or running in a marathon or doing kickboxing or whatever. And what's really nice about that is these are people who get to see how you perform. You can't bullshit your way out of it.
Exactly.
And they may be really good networking opportunities for you.
So it's funny you say that, right? There's a book, one of my favorite books I ever read. It's called Range. Have you ever read that book?
I packed up all my stuff for the new house. The Range was right up here.
Really?
Yeah, with the keys on it, right?
Yes. So I love that book. That's actually one of my favorite books of all time.
Yep.
Because it says how generalists triumph in a specialized world. If you read that book, it talks about how certain figures, like one person who they talked about in that book, since I'm a big fan of combat sports, like boxing, there's a boxer named Vasily Lomachenko. And even though he retired, I think last year, and even though he was a great boxer, they said that he did other things outside of boxing. He learned how to dance. When he trained, he did things like, I think he played something like tennis or racquetball or something like that. But he did different things.
You mean like pickleball?
Yes, thank you. Pickleball, yes. But he did things outside of boxing that eventually correlated to his boxing performance, because there's research or there's something that shows that the things you gain in doing other things, and plus it kind of gives you a way to disassociate from that main responsibilities, to just give you a mental break.
Yeah.
But the things that you gain from those things outside of your main responsibility, you can bring it into your current one, because you'll probably be surprised by the connections, the skills, the mental capacities that you build when you do those things overall. So that's why I say, even when that idea, that concept of a team and just people watching you or just what you gain are very important.
I'm going to add one other element before we move on, and that is military veterans. Oh my God, I love military veterans, because you want to talk about people that had to learn mission and how to do stuff. I lived for many years in a community that bordered the Quantico Marine Base. So a lot of my neighbors were active duty or retired Marines. Talk about people who know how to get stuff done. And here's the thing, that they may not have known how to approach a job in a completely different market vertical. And I didn't place people typically who came out of the military. But what I would say to them is, you know how to get from the beginning to the middle to the end of anything. Remember that. And that was like a jumping off point for people. And even if I didn't place them, I said, believe in the experience that you have. And if you were a combat veteran, oh my God, my props to you. You did right for the country, but you also did amazing work. Can you talk to that a little?
Well, actually, it's funny, because this one's probably a little more personal to me. So I don't know if you know this, Dan, but my dad was actually a veteran. Yeah, so he was a military police, and he was a paratrooper.
Wow.
And one thing about him, if you knew my dad, he was somebody who he made sure he got the job done, right? Like, he loved to work. That's something he's done all his life. But he was the type of person where that if there was an assignment or if there was something that he has to do, he was going to do it from beginning to end. And he was very focused on doing that responsibility. And I think that is something that relates to veterans as well, because I read a lot of books. Like, one book I'm actually planning to get is called it's by Jocko Willett, Discipline Equals Freedom. Thank you. If discipline equals freedom, the skills that you gain in the military, especially based on some of the conversations I've had with some veterans, some who are currently in the military itself, they teach you how to be focused. They teach you how to be disciplined. They teach you on how to make sure that you look out for the person next to you. All of those things correlate to the importance of being a good worker at your job, right? So that's why it goes back to the importance of doing things outside of the work, doing things that you may be able to translate into the work field, especially if you're trying to pivot. You'll be surprised by how that helps at the end.
I think the external experiences, Kareem, are often more illustrative of a person's ability
True.
to learn and to adapt than the core responsibilities that they have. What do I mean by that? Early in my career, I was surrounded by people who did really well in their careers because they were so subspecialized. I
Mm,
never got an MBA, but a lot of my peers did. And it, at the time, meant, and I hate to be cynical, they were very good at what they did, but they were also providing skill specialty that their hiring manager wasn't willing to give them.
mm,
The downside of that was that oftentimes my peers, and I'm quite a bit older than you, would lean on their acquired accreditation and say, "I'm at the pinnacle."
mm.
That is death now. If you are
Right.
not completely reaching out and learning and adapting, you're toast. Which leads me to my next point, which is the importance of curiosity. If I see
Yeah.
somebody who is asking me questions, when I was recruiting and somebody said to me, I've heard this about this company and I'm really excited about it. Can you tell me about blank, 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 blank? Because I think I may be able to help with that.
Mm,
I light up. That
mm.
curiosity tells me something else too, Kareem, and I'm hoping you can address this as well, which is the lifetime value of that placement I may make. They may not flame out after 18 months. If they've got the capacity to adapt and be curious and learn and ask really good questions, they're going to have some run rate. What do you
Right.
think of all that?
I agree. I would definitely say curiosity is very important. I think the thing that you're trying to say when it comes to that is your willingness to grow, like you said, right?
Yes.
Your willingness to, you're not just going to come in and stay stagnant. You're going to grow within the organization. You're probably going to be active in the organization. You're going to bring value to the organization. So that's where the importance of growing your skill set, growing your connections, and this is important too, being consistent. So the thing is, when it comes to the curiosity component,
Mm-hmm.
when someone's trying to meet you, or when they are meeting you and you show curiosity, of course you'll probably leave a lasting impression on them the first time. But if you repeat that, say for example, say you interview for a role,
Mm-hmm.
they saw the curiosity and they were interested in you, but because of the circumstances they probably didn't choose you for the role. If by some miracle you are consistent in reaching out to them or staying connected with them, if they're open to it, and they've seen that you've grown from that, or that you still are learning, you'll be surprised by how that may help you long term. I actually had somebody like last year, I did a phone call with her because she's been applying at my company
Mm-hmm.
many times at UI Health, right? And she kept getting rejections. She kept getting rejections. And she called me. She said, "Hey, can we schedule a call? Because I'm just curious of, what can I do to optimize my chances?" Right.
Yeah.
And through the phone call, I could tell she was genuinely curious and that she was genuinely interested in working here. So I gave her some feedback related to that. She took my feedback, and I'll never forget this. One time I was doing a meeting with one of my hiring managers, and I saw that she applied, and I already pushed her application to the hiring manager.
Right.
And I remember I just said, like, "Oh, wait, I saw that she applied." I said, "Actually, I know her. Like, she always applies and she keeps trying to do it." I didn't realize that that would play a role in the hiring manager interviewing her.
Wow.
And she ended up,
Okay.
yep, she got.
That's good because I mean that's where the curiosity actually helped instill some confidence in the process.
And the thing is, the fact that she kept going and she didn't give up and she kept pursuing it, that stood out to me when it came to me being a recruiter.
Um, I don't want to spend a lot of time on resume writing and resume editing, but are there any points that you feel are most resonant to people who maybe aren't familiar with how to create an effective presentation?
Well, I will say this. I'm gonna try to correlate it to the reinvention.
Mm,
The most important thing is make sure you understand what the job is telling you they're looking for. right? It relates to reinvention. Like you said, the one thing that we have to be honest about, especially when you talk about those people who are so specialized and things like that, the market is always going to change.
Oh, sure.
A few years ago, AI wasn't even a topic, and now is literally what people talk about almost 24/7. Things are always going to change, things are always going to be different, and you need to learn how to adapt to that, right? Similar to that reinvention, it's the same thing when it comes to applying for a job.
Hmm.
The biggest mistake that a lot of people do is they try to show you everything except the most important parts.
Right.
I don't have time to listen to everything that you're telling me. What are the things I'm asking, I'm looking for? And do you have that? Because I may have other people to talk to, other applications to deal with. Look at what the job is telling you they're looking for. And if you have those qualifications, make sure that you show that on your application, which is one thing a lot of people don't do too. Some people have the qualifications, but they forget to put it. And if it's my first time meeting you, if I do not know who you are, I'm going to go off how you present yourself on your application, because some people say, well, I'll bring it up during the interview. You have to get the interview first, though.
And let's talk about that, because when you're screening new candidates, I don't want to sound arrogant when I say this, but I would typically know within 30 seconds if that call was continuing.
Yeah.
well within 30 seconds.
I'm glad you said that too, because people think we're kidding when we say that.
So hot pro tip here, really work on being very succinct in your presentation. And that takes a little bit of skill. And with younger people in the workplace, I think you get a little bit of latitude. But the longer you're in the workplace, I think the expectation is, tell me very quickly, because I'm very busy, why you're here and why I'm talking to you.
And also, too, if I may add, build, if you can, try to build some type of relationship or rapport with the interviewer.
Yes.
So what I tell people is, if you can, do some research on the interviewer. If they have a LinkedIn, or if you know somebody that knows them, try to ask them, hey, what type of person is this? What do they like? For me, with my first job, I tell the story all the time. I was interviewed by the director at my last job, right?
Yeah.
Me and her connected off of Toy Story 3. That's all we talked about. All during the interview, that's all we talked about was Toy Story 3. And I ended up getting the job. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, of course, be succinct. Make sure you have a good, quick, not good, quick, but a succinct, effective opening. But also try to build relation with the person interviewing you, because if they like you, I'll be honest, that's going to play a factor as well. If they felt good about you during that time, they're most likely going to persuade the hiring manager, or if they are the hiring manager, that's probably going to persuade them to really consider you for that role or future roles.
So my daughter, who's just graduating nursing school this Saturday, we're going down for the pinning ceremony.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. She calls me up 3 weeks ago, and I knew she was having interviews, and she's like, oh, full of anxiety. Mm-hmm. And she said, Dad, I had 2 interviews today. One was in the emergency department, and one was in the step down department. She had to explain to me what step down meant. I never heard that term. So she says, I interviewed with 2 people, and I said to her, take me through the experience. And she said, well, they asked questions I didn't expect them to ask. I said, what did you expect them to ask? And she said, like, strengths and weaknesses question. I said, Darren, that's a bullshit question. Anybody who asks that isn't serious. So what did they ask you? She said, well, certainly they wanted to know about my experience in school and the preceptor experience. I said, well, that's good. So for folks that don't know nursing, preceptorship is like a hands-on internship with a veteran nurse who takes you through like their day and what they do, and you get to do everything under their supervision. And she rocked it. I'll say, good. You talked about that. So what's the one question that really surprised you? Take note, everybody. Listen, heads up from the table. Watch this.
I'm curious now.
So Darren, tell me about something in your work career where you had to deal with an intensely emergent situation that you figured out how to get control of very quickly.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. So now I'm nervous. I said, so Darren, how did you answer? And she said, well, I talked about when I was a summer camp counselor. She worked at a sleepover camp, and one of the kids in the bunk, and she's all alone with these kids, and one of the kids in the bunk she discovered was cutting herself. She was going through some emotional stuff, and she was cutting herself. And she said, I described how I very calmly got help for the rest of the bunk, got coverage for the rest of the bunk, pulled this girl aside, talked to her, figured out that she had done this, and got her immediately to first response. And I said, and how did that go? And tell me how that interviewer reacted to you in the emergency department. Because that's who the person was who asked that question. She leaned in. I said, oh, Darren, that's beautiful.
Right,
you made a connection.
Yeah.
I said, what happened next? She goes, well, I had the step down interview first. That went pretty well. And they asked really good questions. After that question, the person who runs the unit took me around, gave me a complete tour. I said, Darren, they want you. Really? I said, yeah, I'm telling you, if you've made a connection, they wouldn't have brought you in if they didn't have the goods on you. And yes, before they interviewed you, they interviewed people that knew you, right? I said, but when you said that answer, that was immediately leverageable to your work in the emergency department. That's why you got the tour. Guess what happened 2 hours later?
She got the job offer.
She got a phone offer.
See.
And I said, okay, now we've got to let's talk about the offer. Now, Dad, the former recruiter, starts in. They gave her top end of the salary range because they desperately need people.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Right, it's a hot, emergency department. They need nurses, right?
Yeah. That's a very.
And she said, Dad, I really want to take this. I said, then don't hesitate. Give them a verbal if that's what you want to do. If you feel good about it, and she did. And for 3.5 weeks, she's sleeping nights because she's got a job when she gets done and gets through her boards. So that's the point. Keep your ears and eyes open for the cues that you're landing it.
You know what's so funny? And I think people, it's kind of like what you said in 30 seconds as a recruiter, I can tell if I want to. People would be surprised about how recruiters, don't get me wrong, we got to make sure you meet the requirements and things like that. We love a candidate who we can connect with.
Oh, amen, brother.
Yeah, we interview so many people that if we talk to that one person who just catches our attention with an answer or just things we talk about during the interview, you'll be surprised about how much of an advantage that can give you sometimes during the application process. Because I've had some people who I'll be honest with you, there's some people who I interview who are my friends to this day, just because we had such an amazing interview that I'm just like, hey, can we be friends after this?
A lot of my LinkedIn connections are people that I screened or interviewed, but maybe didn't place. We just developed really good, those are some of my LinkedIn connections. Absolutely. But to your point, if they're connecting with you, you're going to feel really good about them, and you can go to the hiring manager and spell it out. I used to, I don't know what your process is. When I'd present a candidate for consideration, I had something called a profile sheet. Okay. And it was a declarative statement of why I'm wasting your time with this person. I'm being flip here. Why I think you need to invest a look-see at what this person does. If I did my work well, and over 20 years, I got very good at it, 80 to 90% of the time, they would seriously consider that person. They brought me in for that experience, for giving them the eyes and divining what they're about so that I could be very sensitive to who would make a good candidate. And I know you do the same thing.
Yeah, so definitely at my last job, what we would do when I was able to interview every candidate, I would send an email, first of all, with their answers, and I would give them my recommendations on how did I feel about the candidate personally. And that's why I say it's very important to make an impression, because sometimes your recruiters are going to be your biggest advocate for an opening if they really like you.
So good. We're actually we're rounding third here, Kareem. We're actually getting close to the end here. I just want, well, I know I wanted to talk to you about the pit, and I said, hey, you've been watching the pit, and you go, I don't watch TV, and I'm like, what?
I don't.
This I would imagine in healthcare is like the absolute go-to show. I just started season 2. I'm showing the audience this picture because when I saw this scene and I was introduced to the person on the right, Nurse Emma, who was a new nurse, she was starting. This is her first day on the job. And I was like, I looked at my wife and I said, this is our daughter. but what I want to tell you about the scene and what made me so hopeful is the nurse on the right, Nurse Dana, who's the veteran in the unit, was very calm and very nurturing and really looking to do right by the newbie. Right. And so, you know, if you're going into healthcare and if Kareem is the person you're talking to and you decide to get into nursing, I give you props because there are few careers out there that are more noble. Yeah. I would put teaching up there, but nursing, oh my God, a nurse is responsible for getting you healthy more than the doctors because they're executing. They're the ones who make that place run. Kareem, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate it. Before we get to our final question, I'm hoping you can point our viewers and listeners to where they can find you on social media, watch your video content, and get to know you a little better. How would they do that?
Thank you. So first, you can follow me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn page is Kareem Rogers, and I always give content related to career tips. I get motivation. Sometimes I'm a little humorous. I'm goofy sometimes. But LinkedIn is my main source. I also have a website called Kareem A. Rogers. If you are interested in getting some career coaching, resume writing, things like that, I am the person for you in regards to that. And just a quick, you're the first one I'm actually telling this to, Dan. I'm actually in the process of writing a book as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that too.
So when that book gets published, we'll come back on and we'll talk about it. That'd be absolutely great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Well, let's get to our final question, which is, what's your work fit? You know, Kareem, I ask this of every guest, so you can't get out of this. But here we go.
Okay.
What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes the work that you do, Kareem, a wonderful part of your day, doing other many wonderful and meaningful things? And here's the operative part, and is not the all-consuming time suck of a day. What's your work fit?
The work fit for me is a fit where I can, almost like fitness, when you're helping somebody change their body, I'm helping somebody change their career or change their ability to actually have a job. Every day I play a role in helping people get a job. And not only that, but I'm helping people get a job that is very important in saving the lives of many people today. For me, it is very enjoyable to hire somebody who plays a role in that, and to also have them message me and say, you played a role in why I chose to work here. And for me, the difference that, and I'm a humble person, of course, but the difference that I make every day in saving a life when it comes to working for a hospital and recruiting the top nurses or technicians for this role, that is something that I find very enjoyable as a recruiter. And to be honest with you, it's actually a blessing to be able to do that.
I love that. And I love that I never placed healthcare people. I placed knowledge workers. But I still had the same thing that if I place somebody, I helped them make their lives better.
Yeah.
And maybe opened up a new opportunity. I got very good at placing people and them going well beyond the 2 years that most people who don't work out flame out. But I helped a lot of people redirect themselves, like you have demonstrated. And when I was recruiting it really was my work fit. So God bless you, my brother. That's great work. That's great work. Hey, thanks a lot. Let's bring you back when that book gets published. And if you can stick around in the green room for now, we'll talk very briefly. We'll see everybody next week. Take care.